So I want to start out by just sharing some information on how important cholesterol is, right? It's very important to know that it absolutely plays a crucial role in the body. And so much so that if we had none, we won't survive. And that's important to understand, because we know that cholesterol is beneficial to the heart, the kidneys, the liver, the reproductive organs, our vision, the brain, normal growth, proper function of the nervous system, and it even offers protection from disease. And when I'm saying cholesterol, I'm not just referring to HDL, which is known as the good cholesterol. I'm actually also referring to LDL, which is known as the bad cholesterol. And I'll get into more detail around that a bit later. But for now, just note that it's not just HDL or the good cholesterol that's beneficial, but also the so-called bad cholesterol. Okay, so let's just get into a bit more details with regards to why I'm saying this. Why is it that cholesterol is essential for proper function in the body? So firstly, it supports the immune system. So there's quite a few studies out there that have demonstrated that our immune cells rely on cholesterol. That's when they're fighting infections, but also when they are repairing themselves after the fight. And yes, specifically LDL, our low density lipoprotein, the bad cholesterol, plays a very important role, as it directly binds and inactivates dangerous bacterial toxins, so preventing them from doing any damage in the body. So it really makes a lot of sense that it has been recorded that people with high levels of cholesterol seems to be more protected from infections. You know, they rarely get common colds, they recover from infections more quickly compared to people with normal or low blood cholesterol. So quite an interesting statistic there. Okay, the second thing that I want to touch on is the structural integrity. So cholesterol also plays a very important role when it comes to structural integrity, because both cholesterol and saturated fats make the membranes of our cells firm. So without them, the cells would be flabby and fluid and kind of non-existing. So very important role there as well. And we also know that cholesterol supports the health of our neurons. And actually that the highest concentration of cholesterol is in the brain. So about 25% of all cholesterol is accounted for by the brain. And what cholesterol does in the brain is, one of the things that it does is it helps with the process of making new synapses in the brain. And your synapses is basically where the brain cells establish the connections with each other, right? So it's been found that the more healthy synapses a person's brain can make, the more mentally able they are and intelligent that person seems to be. So crucial, right? And synapse formation is almost entirely dependent on cholesterol. Okay, so without the presence of cholesterol, we cannot form synapses, and therefore we would not be able to learn or remember anything. Right? So yeah, that's quite interesting. And if you link it up with a very common side effect that have been reported with cholesterol lowering drugs, one of which is memory loss. So, you know, that would really make a lot of sense to me, that if we're lowering the cholesterol, then it is going to impact the memory in some or other way. And there's even some research showing that seniors with the highest cholesterol levels have the best memory function. Okay. So let's look at the next element. So hormones and vitamin D. So cholesterol is also responsible for creating our hormones, because it's the building block that is needed to create our hormones, such as our estrogens, our testosterone, progesterone, but also vitamin D. So some of you might know, be familiar with, in some circles, they're even saying that vitamin D is a hormone, right? So that's why I'm grouping them together here. But after the brain, the organs that are hungriest for cholesterol are our endocrine glands. So our endocrine glands are the adrenals that releases the stress hormones, and also the sex glands, because they both produce steroid hormones, and steroid hormones are made from cholesterol. Okay. And also, like I said, so vitamin D is made from the cholesterol in our skin when it is exposed to sunlight. So it's another very important role that cholesterol plays over here. Okay, and cholesterol also helps with the digestion and absorption of fats, and specifically our fat-soluble vitamins. So that's A, D, E, and K, right? That's the fat-soluble vitamins. And because it helps with the production of bile acids. So for those of you who are not familiar with bile, so bile basically emulsifies fats. So in other words, it mixes them with water so that the digestive enzymes can get to them in order for it to be absorbed. Okay, and the very last element that I want to touch on here is the developing brain and eyes of the fetus and of a newborn infant, because it specifically requires large amounts of cholesterol. And that's why it's also very interesting to note that human breast milk provides a lot of cholesterol once again. So it's such a natural and a necessary component. And not only that, but there's also a very specific enzyme in mother's milk that allows the baby's digestive tract to be able to absorb almost 100% of that cholesterol, right? And that is because the developing brain and the eyes of an infant require large amounts of it. And just an interesting fact here as well is that the composition of human breast milk contains about 48% saturated fat, right? And that's the type of fat that has been demonized, but still it's the very first thing in a very natural way that we are fed, right? So how does it make sense? It's a bit, there's a few questions that comes up around this topic.